I'm Eileen Roach. Welcome to the Machine Embroidered T-shirt. In this class, you're going to do 4 different T-shirts. We'll start with the basics: stabilizer, hooping, placement for left chest embroidery. And then we'll advance over to cutting up 2 T-shirts, putting them back together with an elegant cow neck. We'll also do some applique on a V-neck T-shirt. And then finally, we're going to really transform one extra large T-shirt into a whole new shaped neckline with beautiful 3 embroidery designs that connect together absolutely seamlessly. We're going to start with a blank, so you'll have some shopping that you'll have to do. Now, I have some advice for you. You most certainly want to get a blank that looks great just blank, because embroidery is not going to make it look better. If it has a flaw, if it's made out of chintzy fabric, embroidery is not going to enhance that. In fact, it's going to make it look even worse. So start with a color that complements you, a fit that flatters your figure, and a fiber that it's really comfortable to wear. Then, of course, you're going to need some embroidery designs. And in this class, we have provided some downloadable materials with the embroidery designs that you'll need to complete all of these projects. When you get into the downloadable materials, you'll notice that there's several different formats. In fact, there's 12, and they cover all common embroidery machines that are available today. So refer to your manual, your machine manual, to find out exactly what format your machine reads. And also, while you're in there, take a look at what size sewing field your machine can accommodate. All of the embroidery designs in this class will fit in a 5x7 hoop. And you might wonder, if you're new to this, what is a 5x7 hoop? Well, a 5x7 hoop is really just the sewing field. And that is the area of the embroidery design, the largest size that that design can be. It is not the perimeter of the hoop, okay? So that's 2 things that you have to understand the difference between. You know, this template that I just have in my hand here is a hoop template, but there's another type of template that is important for you to be aware of. And in fact, it's available in your downloadable materials. It's a printed image of the embroidery design in actual size, and it has a crosshair in it that designates the top of the embroidery design. Here, I have printed it out on regular paper. Just put it in your computer and print out on regular paper. And I cut around the embroidery design paper doll style. You can also put vellum into your printer and print on that. This is helpful because it's a bit translucent and you can see through to the fabric underneath. For another embroidery project, if you have an embroidery design that you don't have the ability to print a template, you can stitch your own. Hoop stabilizer. Stitch the embroidery design right in the center of the hoop, right where the needle has been positioned when you first bring up the design. And then, before removing it from the hoop, trace the perimeter of the hoop with a marker. And then connect the horizontal and vertical center marks, and you have a template of your embroidery design. Okay, so now that we have a template, what do we do with it? Well, you want to audition it on the figure. You can see that I have my hope embroidery design that's already stitched here, but when I use a template, it tells me exactly where it's going to land on the blank itself. You know, you don't want it to stitch like this. You don't want it to be on a bust point. You don't want it to be off center. And often when we're working on flat fabric, we have a tendency to put it too far over near the armhole. And so when you unfigure, when that's worn, it looks kind of silly. So it's best to have your embroidery design for left chest embroidery about 6.5 inches from the shoulder seam down, and then 2 inches or 2 finger widths from the ribbing. Let me show you how to place the target sticker or the embroidery design on your blank. I'm going to use this helpful aid called the Embroiderer's Helper. But if you don't have an item like that, then you can just use a ruler. First, measured about 2 finger widths in from the edge of the ribbing along the shoulder seam. And then with a ruler, mark about 6.5 inches down from the shoulder seam. But if you do a lot of left chest embroidery, you might find that a tool like this is quite helpful. The key is to fold your shirt in half, finding the center front, and then press that down, just finger press is fine. And then align the embroiderer's helper so that that small notch is right at the bottom of the ribbing. and the vertical straight edge is aligned with the center front fold. And then we're going to take a target sticker. Well, you're probably wondering what a target sticker is. A target sticker is just an adhesive sticker, and goodness, you can make your own, that's for sure. All you need to do is draw a line vertically and horizontally across the sticker, and then put an arrowhead on just one leg of the crosshair, because that's going to designate the top of the embroidery design. You know, every time you bring up a monogram for Mary, it reads like an M and not a W for Wilma. So always make sure that you add that crosshair so that you know exactly what side is up. And then since this t-shirt is a medium, I'm going to align that target sticker with the notch that says medium. And I'll just drop that in place. Now you'll notice there's a second target sticker area down here, and that helps you hoop perfectly square. So I'll go ahead and I'll put that target sticker in place too. And once I have them aligned, I can remove my placement guide, and I have my two target stickers in place. Now, you might want to draw a line with a removable marker. I like to use a chalk because it will just brush away. And then I'll trace that straight edge. Now I have a guide that's going to help me hoop. But before we hoop, we have to pick a stabilizer. So let's do that next. Even though embroidery is beautiful on the front, it has a foundation on the back that you have to provide, and you do that through stabilizer. In this class, we're going to use 3 different stabilizers. The first will be a topper, which is a water-soluble film type stabilizer, and we place that on top of our knit fabric for some of the designs because we want the stitches to stay on top of the fibers and not seep down into the knit. We will also use a cutaway. Now, a cutaway stabilizer is a permanent stabilizer, which is helpful for items that have to be laundered continuously, like a t-shirt. And it's also very strong. Even though it's light and delicate, it has a lot of strength, so it adds quite enough foundation to the embroidery design for that unstable fabric, which is a knit. And then, believe it or not, we are going to use a tearaway stabilizer on one of our t-shirt projects because the designs themselves are very light and open and airy, and it'll be fine to have this delicate stabilizer behind the embroidery designs itself. But you know, you have many choices of stabilizers. You have the cutaways, the tearaways, the water solubles, and then all of those also come in an adhesive format. So it's best to test, always test. And here's what I like to call, believe it or not, my yuck pile, but it's really my sample pile. Here's a t-shirt that I have tested embroidery designs on, and I'll continue to use this t-shirt for that purpose only. And when it's full of designs, I'll throw it away and I'll start on another one. You may not want to ruin a perfectly good t-shirt using it for a test stitch out, but you could go to a thrift shop or use an old worn out t-shirt as a sample t-shirt. I even do it on woven fabrics, quilt sandwiches such as this, and even terry cloth. There's really no way to tell how an embroidery design is going to sit on a fabric unless you test it. So do that. I think you'll be pleased with the results. So now that we know how to stabilize, let's hoop. This is often an embroiderer's biggest challenge. So I have a great tip here for you that you're going to just love. Use your ironing board to be a helpful aid for hooping. So I've set my hoop on the edge, the pointy end of the ironing board. Now you remember our t-shirt is already marked, so I know exactly where my embroidery design is going to land. I have the outer hoop placed on the end of the ironing board, and I'm going to open it up. And then I'll place my cutaway stabilizer right on top. And then I am just going to dress the ironing board. And you know what? I have this the wrong way. I'm going to flip that around so that I can literally go hem first and slide that right over the end of the ironing board. Now you may be wondering why this is so important. Well, I'll explain that It's very difficult to hoop a t-shirt because it's two layers. The front and back are already seamed together at the side seam. So by using your ironing board, you're going to isolate just the front of the t-shirt so that when you capture it in the hoop, you're not also capturing a sleeve or maybe the t-shirt back. So I'm feeling around in here, and I want to make sure that my t-shirt is square, that my template or my target sticker is square in the hoop. You don't have to be perfectly square because almost every embroidery machine today has the ability to rotate an embroidery design in 1 degree increments. So as long as you can hoop nice and tight, you can worry about rotating the design when you get to the machine. So one thing you've probably learned and heard from maybe where you purchased your machine is don't pull on the fabric, and that's very true. You can give it a gentle tug in the length of the t-shirt because the stretch of the t-shirt is across the fabric, across the body. And if you are to stretch this, you'll wind up with puckers after the embroidery is complete. So we'll just make sure that our stabilizer is flat underneath, and I'm going to insert the top of the ring first and hold that down and then gently smooth this out and tug on it just a little bit, and then with the palm of my hand, I'll insert the inner ring. And I'm pretty square. That's not too bad. It's not perfect, but it's pretty square. Now, we nest the rest of the t-shirt, the whole body of the t-shirt above the hoop. Notice how I'm turning the sleeves inside out. And we do that because when it's a t-shirt that you really love, there's a great chance when you pull it off the machine, the sleeve has stitched to the bottom of the t-shirt. So get it all up on top so you can see exactly where it is. Now, we're going to attach this to the machine. We're going to find out if I'm absolutely square in the hoop or not, and we'll rotate if needed and stitch our design. Now that I've taken my hoop off of the end of the ironing board and I have nested all of the body of that t-shirt above the hoop, there's a couple things you have to check. First, flip over the hoop and make sure that your stabilizer extends beyond the perimeter of the hoop. Otherwise, you're not going to have stable fabric in the sewing field, so make sure you have done that. And then go ahead and countersink the hoop, meaning push that inner ring down just a little bit so that the inner ring is not flush with the outer ring. That presses the fabric right against the sewing machine bed and will give you a better stitch out. Now we have to make sure that we are absolutely square in the hoop, and the easiest way to do that is with the template that comes with your hoop. So go ahead and drop that in place, and you'll see that even though I thought I did such a fabulous job of hooping perfectly square, I really didn't, because you can see that my line, my chalk line, is not perfectly straight, and either is my target sticker. So I have to find out how many degrees to rotate that. And I'll take a tool called the angle finder. It has a 0, and I place that towards the top of the hoop. So just so you understand, this is how the hoop attaches to the machine on this side, on the left-hand side of the hoop. So the top of the sewing field is right here. And I'll take that angle finder and I'll position it over the target sticker underneath, aligning the grommet with the center of the crosshair on the target sticker. My 0 is positioned at the top of the sewing field and hoop, and then I want to make sure that my edge is parallel with the edge of the hoop. And in doing that, when I swing this dial, it's a grommeted 2-part design. I want to make sure that the red arrow sits directly on top of the target sticker arrow underneath. And you know, as it's lined up underneath, it looks like it's almost perfectly square, but when you swing that dial and align those 2 arrows, you can see that you actually have to rotate your design 6 degrees. And when we attach this to the machine, we'll go ahead and do that. What if you didn't do that? Well, on the shirt itself, when you finish the beautiful embroidery design and put it on, the design would be a little cocky. Okay, it's time to put the hoop on the machine. Now when you carry it over to the machine, you want to carefully guard it and make sure it doesn't pop out of the hoop. That's a disaster when that happens. And then work the t-shirt underneath the presser foot. Meanwhile, attaching the actual hoop through the attachment and close the lever. And now we have to open that back up again to access the design area. This is also a great time to keep a really good eye on all those extra pieces of t-shirt, the rest of the garment, to make sure you're not going to stitch on it. And then we'll make those adjustments to our embroidery design. So I'll go into embroidery and retrieve the embroidery design from the USB stick, touch sewing. Now I have some icons that allow me to move around in the hoop and rotate the design. So let's rotate first. A good tip for you to know is any embroidery design that you select will always get its most rotation when it's located in the center of the hoop. So rotate first and then move the hoop and position the needle over a target sticker. You'll see what I mean in a minute. So I'm going to rotate 5 degrees, and I just do this by 1 degree increments. Actually, it wasn't 5, it was 6. So we'll go all the way to 6. And you can see that the number is changing, and the embroidery design itself is now canted a little bit, 6 degrees. Once you have it rotated, it's time to move the needle. Well, actually, we're really moving the hoop. That's what's moving. On the screen, it looks like you're moving the design, but truly you're moving the hoop. And I'm jogging it over so that the needle is centered dead center over the crosshair on the target sticker. And once that's positioned, I lift the presser foot, remove that target sticker, and add my water-soluble stabilizer. That's the last step before pressing go. So the first color is complete, and I'll just go ahead and change my threads. Now I find it's best to leave all of your embroidery thread that you'll need for that embroidery design lined up in a row right at the machine. It helps you stay on track and know exactly what color is going to stitch next. Lower the presser foot and off we go on color number 2. Now that my design is done, it's time to take the hoop off the machine and then the garment out of the hoop. So first off, I can get rid of that bottom target sticker that was just there for alignment purposes. And I'll go ahead and rip this off. That's one of the beauties of water-soluble stabilizer, the film type, the regular weight. It just tears away, and you can just kind of work those little pieces away by just pulling them off. Now, on the back side, we're going to remove the hoop, and then we're going to trim down this stabilizer. And I like to use pinking shears to do that. The reason I use pinking shears is I don't get a straight edge that could possibly show through on the right side of the garment, even though this is pretty delicate stabilizer, or shear, I guess we should say. But just having that pinked edge really does make a difference. And I often cut the corners so that I don't just have a patch back there. And you're probably thinking, gee, that's a lot of waste. Well, there is quite a bit of waste in embroidery, but if you hold on to some of these pieces, you could use them for smaller embroidery designs. And then our design is complete. And it's nice and square on the hoop. I'll just go ahead and remove this chalk, and it's ready to wear. Now that our t-shirt is complete, it's time to move on to our next project, the cow neck. I just want to remind you to download your embroidery designs, your templates, and your color sequences. I'll see you in our next project. This is Eileen Roach and the Machine Embroidered T-shirt.